After almost 40 days of a full-blown war between America and Israel on the one side and Iran on the other side, we finally have a much-anticipated, much-awaited ceasefire. The big question is, what are the terms of that ceasefire? And more importantly, will the ceasefire hold? Joining us is a very special guest for the very first interview, I believe, since this truce announcement was made early this morning. Ambassador Reuven Azar is the Honorable Ambassador of Israel to India. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now.
My pleasure, sir.
40 days almost since this war began. Finally, we have a truce. How are you feeling about it?
Well, it's very good news. I think that the Iranian regime had no choice but to agree to a ceasefire in which they opened the Straits of Hormuz. But there's no commitment from the part of the United States or Israel that in 2 weeks from now we will not renew fire if the conditions of the 15-point plan are not fulfilled. It means that we have achieved the three main goals that we have put forward at the beginning. That means to remove two existential threats, the nuclear program that has been very widely devastated, okay? The ballistic missile program that has been degraded substantially, and we have hit the forces of oppression of Iran, more than 10K military of Iran, including the top brass, the intelligence brass, their navy, their air force, and a lot of forces that now give a chance to the Iranian people, if they choose so, to create a change within Iran. We don't know if that will happen, but we said at the outset, we are not going to impose a political solution inside Iran, but we were limited to this aims. So now we have a chance that maybe the Iranian regime will change its approach. They have 2 weeks to do so, and I certainly hope they do change their approach.
I will come to whether this ceasefire will hold, but more importantly, you outlined some goals. The first goal that was said by President Trump and by Prime Minister Netanyahu was regime change. That's not been achieved.
Well, that's not what they said. What they said is that we are going to undermine, debilitate the force of this regime, so the Iranian people have a chance, if they choose so, when they choose so, to create a change in within the regime or change of regime. We said very clearly, and you can quote me, I gave almost 60 interviews, and in all of them, I repeated the goals of this operation. The goals were to remove the existential threats and to give a chance to the Iranian people to embrace their future. That's exactly what we did. So there are all kinds of people that are saying that the goalposts have been changing. No, they haven't changed. You can check with your editor. What we said at the beginning is that what we are saying now.
Let's look at some of these conditions. One of the main conditions you said was that Iran should not enrich uranium. Iran is going around circulating this 10-point proposal where one of the points is that they will have the ability to enrich uranium.
Well, first of all, you can circulate whatever you want. At the end of the day, Iran had to pay a huge price for the fact that they do not haven't so far given consent to the demands of the United States and Israel and the rest of the international community. And if they choose to re-engage in nuclear activities, they are exposed. We will be able to trace that and to take care of that.
No, so can Iran enrich uranium or can they not?
Well, at this point, we have degraded their capabilities to the extent that they are not capable to reach the enriched uranium. Hundreds of elements of the nuclear program, including conversion facilities, including R&D work, including what they have been working around the device to build a nuclear weapon, the plutonium track, all these hundreds of activities around Iran. Look, Iran is a huge country of 75 times the size of the state of Israel, okay? We've been doing a pretty comprehensive job in degrading all of those capabilities. So if the Iranians decide to renew the nuclear military program, we will see it and we will take care of it.
Ambassador, one of the big concerns has been around the Strait of Hormuz. Have these last 40 days not shown to Israel and to America and certainly to the rest of the world that Iran can use that as a pain point, as a point of leverage, and thereby get America and Israel to the negotiating table?
Well, first of all, we were at the negotiating table before this operation started. And it was Iran that used the negotiation time just to stall time and continue building capabilities. So now we are in a situation in which they have paid a huge price for that. Okay? And if they will go back to the tactic of losing time or stalling, they will have to pay the price again. Now, when it comes to the Straits of Hormuz, I think it's a huge boomerang against Iran because they said that they are going to charge countries, and now they committed in a temporary ceasefire, not in a permanent ceasefire, committed to allow free movement. Now, we know that this is something that is very important to the international community, and actually the Indian government has issued a statement today that demands that, an impeded flow of shipping in international waterways. That is what international law demands. So if the regime decides to go again and try to impede movement, they will have to pay the price.
No, but the Iranian Navy, for example, has said that every ship that passes through the Strait of Hormuz will now have to pay a toll. It's part of their 10-point proposal. So net, viewers, the 10-point proposal says that they will charge every ship.
I can take a piece of paper and put whatever demands that I want, but the commitment in the context of the 2-week ceasefire is a complete and unimpeded opening of the Straits of Hormuz. If they don't comply with that, it means they don't comply with the ceasefire.
So in these next
and President
2 weeks,
Trump has said that very clearly.
In these next 2 weeks, not a single ship will be tolled $2 million per ship? Is that what you're saying?
That's what President Trump said.
No, what about the Iranians? The Iranians are the ones who are tolling, not America.
Yes.
Have they committed to not tolling any of the ships?
Exactly.
For the next 2 weeks?
Yes.
That's your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me this. At the end of it, net, the Strait of Hormuz, which was an open, free waterway before this war began, hasn't that now become a closed, chargeable waterway? Isn't that net what this war has ended up achieving?
No. What this war achieved is the removal of 2 existential threats, okay, that for us were imminent. Look, we have this doctrine of impeding fanatical leaders that have sworn to destroy us from acquiring weapons of mass destruction that would allow them to implement their plan. It started in '81 with Begin, Prime Minister Begin. It continued in 2007 with Prime Minister Olmert in Syria. And we are doing it now, again. So we have a very consistent policy. It has nothing to do with the Straits of Hormuz. The fact that the regime, the Iranian regime, is trying to divert attention and punish countries, including their friends, with these ridiculous demands that have nothing to do with international law and completely unacceptable, it's a diversion. Look, they're trying to do a diversion of the context and the dialogue and the discourse in order to divert attention from the fact that they have been completely devastated. And look, at the end of the day, the people of Iran are not stupid. They are civilized people, and they are looking at what's happening. And they saw that during 40 days, Israel and the United States had complete control over the skies of Iran. And we have been taking out the so-called supreme leader that was in charge of all these crimes, the entire RGC military brass, the entire Navy of Iran, the entire Air Force, their metallurgical capabilities, the petrochemical capabilities, okay? The factories to produce missiles and drones. So this is a huge loss for the regime. They paid a huge price for their fanatical
But tell me, Ambassador, you look at the pictures that are coming in from Tehran today, and you look at the pictures that are coming in from Washington today, it seems like in Tehran they're celebrating, and in Washington they're protesting. So who won this war and who ended up losing this war?
Yeah, it would be amusing if it was not so sad, okay? The truth of the matter is that the people of Iran understand very well, yes, they are the people that this regime is putting out in the streets. These are not, it's a fraction of 90 million people that are completely disappointed. We know it very well because the regime had to bring militias from abroad to take control of the streets. They brought the Fatimiyun from Pakistan. They brought militias from Afghanistan. They brought militias from Iraq. What does it mean? If the regime was so popular, why they need to bring all these militias? If they are so strong and they won, how come they didn't even manage to capture a pilot 400 kilometers into the territory of their own country? So it means that they are very weak. And of course, theocracies like that, radical regimes like that, will always celebrate because they want to give the impression. The question is whether you are buying it.
Do you think the turning point in this was what Mr. Trump tweeted last night, and a lot of people seem to have taken offense to it, where he said a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again? Do you think that turned the narrative of this war, the public opinion against this war?
I don't know. I think that there are a lot of agendas. We know that President Trump has his own style. Okay, sometimes you need unconventional ways of behaving in order to, or speaking, in order to influence rogue regimes that actually.
No, people are saying he's going to go nuclear.
Of anything, don't stop short of anything in order to continue surviving. So this regime is now, killing, executing children. They have been targeting civilian targets all over Israel. They wounded more than 1,000 children in Israel during this campaign. It's a travesty. So it is very challenging to, confront such a savage, fanatical, and radical regime that does not serve the interest of the Iranian people with conventional diplomacy.
No, but you don't think that this language is uncivilized? I mean, when a president of the United States says a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back, and I don't want that to happen, but it probably will.
It's a diversion from
the main issue.
The main issue, exactly. The main issue is that we have managed to create a situation in which 1 year ago, this regime in Iran thought that it was completely immune. It created this series of armies in the region that were actually terrorizing many countries, including Israel, for a long period of time. And suddenly, after 1 year, they are completely devastated.
You mentioned earlier about Pakistan. Pakistan is going around claiming that they were the mediator, they were the back channel, they were the ones who facilitated this dialogue. In your understanding, has anybody from the government of Israel been in touch with Pakistan? Have they been mediating between you and the Iranians?
We are in sync with the United States. The United States is conducting the negotiations. We keep a very almost immediate contact before and after every negotiation that is taking place. You saw probably the statement of the Prime Minister of Israel coming out this morning, saying that we support the result of the negotiation, we support the ceasefire. Look, we are going to use the minimum force that we need in order to advance our interest. We are not in the business of continuing military operations once we exhaust the military targets. So now that we have created this leverage, the question is, as we finish the military phase, whether the diplomatic phase can be more successful this time. We've been seeing, we've been hearing some hints from President Trump himself regarding the partial agreement on the 15 points. We hope that advances. I think it's in the interest not only of the people of the region, but also the people of the world.
But it is your best understanding that nobody from the government of Israel was in touch with the government of Pakistan?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware of that. Okay, so finally I'll come to the concluding part, which is, how hopeful are you that this ceasefire will hold? Will it hold for 2 weeks? And if it does hold for 2 weeks, then will it become a permanent truce, a permanent peace?
Well, I don't know. I hope that the ceasefire holds. I think that if it doesn't hold, it will mean that this regime can be trusted even when it comes to the minimal commitments that it takes upon itself, and will create a challenge, a major challenge to diplomacy. It will endanger the situation because it could bring to more escalation, which we are interested in avoiding.
And already today we're seeing attacks in, Iran is claiming one of their islands was attacked, Kuwait, Bahrain. The UAE just put out a statement saying number of missiles have been intercepted. What does that tell you?
Well, it means that there is a lot of, that the regime in Iran has managed to alienate many countries in the region. I think that the Gulf countries finally understood, if they didn't understand before, what is the magnitude of the threat coming from Iran. And it tells everybody where would we be if we haven't been taking this decision to launch this operation, because in a West Asia region in which the radical regime of Iran possesses a military nuclear arsenal, 20,000 ballistic missiles and hundreds of thousands of drones, nobody would be safe. Neither us, nor the United States, nor the Gulf countries, nor the 10 million Indians that are living in West Asia, nor the economic future of West Asia. All of that would have been hostage to the will of these fanatics in Tehran.
And finally, a word on the government of India. The Prime Minister was there in Israel just days before this attack began. There were conversations between both the Prime Ministers through the course of these last 40 days. A word on the role of the government of India.
Well, I think that we have seen very clearly what the interest of the Indian government is following the statement that was issued today on the freedom of navigation. I think that once this war is over, we will be able to re-engage in the momentum that was created during the visit. About 17 agreements that were signed. We are going to implement them. There is a lot of work ahead of us to implement all of them. We have adopted a resolution in our cabinet 1 week before Prime Minister Modi arrived to advance all the programs. We are going to invest $50 million just in the program. But more than that, the private sector, and especially the defense industry, is already negotiating huge deals in technological fields that we have never seen before. So we are going to take this relationship forward big time, and this special strategic partnership that we announced is going to be part of reality in the very near future.
All right, Ambassador Reuven Azar, thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it, the first reaction from the Israeli ambassador to India, Reuven Azar. We'll take a quick break, but news and updates continue right here on Times Now.